Let's go live. Greetings from the wasteland of the internet. I have come once again to bring news on this 4th of July to celebrate America's Independence Day. It's I didn't do a stream over this weekend, so there's a lot of stories that I missed, all right, and didn't cover. Um, Things are in real life a little hectic for me, so I'm not sure whether or not I would be able to do the streams my normal time on Sundays, but I'll do what I can. This is kind of a makeup stream. And I have Jensen here to try and keep me from going too far off the rails.
Why on earth would you think I would do something like that? All I'm going to do is say Happy Treason Day to all the Americans. That's all.
By the way, you can invite Maddie if you don't mind. We'll say that
Mhm.
she has a standing thing that I started the stream if she wants to join.
Yeah, if I see her, I will. Absolutely no problem.
But anyway, since we started with the 4th of July story, let's start with the 4th of July story from Salon Magazine. the British version of why America shouldn't exist. Black people who celebrate the 4th of July should totally pay these penalties. We should pay penalties for black people. All right, they should be punished for celebrating the 4th of July. So I'm in a bar drinking a glass of wine at the end of the workday when a black guy stands up and says, "Big ass 4th of July shindig at the park by my crib. All are invited." Okay, so my mind screamed, what kind of black person says shindig? Is that a problem?
Wow.
All right. But verbally I respond, no, nope. Black people aren't allowed to celebrate the 4th of July. Rescind the invitation. The party is canceled. You're funny, my bro. He responded before joyfully skipping out the door like Peter Pan. I feel you, my man, a white dude said, a plaid button up said as I ordered another round. I celebrate Juneteenth more than the 4th, and I'm not even black. And you wonder why I hate commies and hippies.
I don't actually know what to say to that.
These are people who do not respect the people who put their lives on the line to die for their freedom. They do not respect the founding of this country because it wasn't about slavery, folks. They don't respect the founding fathers. So many of the founding fathers were slave owners. They all wanted slavery. No, they didn't. I'm not saying that there weren't ones that did, because there were. But the vast majority of even the slaveholders, like Washington, were deeply disturbed by slavery. The problem is they were born into it, into that system.
Yep.
They weren't people who are looking at this through a historical lens. These are people that as they grew up from a tiny little boy and girl, they were greeted with the fact that, congratulations, little boy, you're a slave owner. So the question then becomes, well, how do you handle this? How do you fix this? How do you deal with the situation as it exists? Because unfortunately, especially in the plantation South, the most notorious and brutal slave owner, and Peter was a former slave. There are stories about that. I'm not going to get into that because it's not the 4th of July story. But you are correct, Ms. Murray. And welcome, by the way. And welcome, Matt Markley. I see you in the chat as well. But they were wrestling with, how do we fix this? How do we change this? And it wasn't just, well, you just have a moral stance to it. No. It doesn't work that way. These people were trying to put together a country, a nation of 13 separate states,
Yep.
because they understood something that people today don't. And that is, in order to have a nation, you got to have defensible borders. You got to be able to defend yourself. They understood this. Before you can worry about slavery or anything else within the nation, you have to have a nation. You got to put the nation together. The nation has to exist. They all wrote about it. One of the biggest ones that everyone points to is Thomas Jefferson. Okay? Now, Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. He was the primary author. Yes, there were edits and people put in other language and stuff, but he was the primary author. Okay? And during one of the passages of his initial submission to Congress was that slavery was an abomination, that slavery in the new nation was going to be outlawed. And he's one of the biggest slave owners that everybody points to and talks about how heinous the guy is. And he was willing to sit up there and outlaw slavery. He presented it to Congress. And believe it or not, his delegation from Virginia were going to vote for it. He was the representative from Virginia.
Okay.
There were 2 states that held out. One of them was a weak hold, right? They probably could have convinced them to change. The other one, the one that was vehement against it and refused to go along with it. Can you guess what state that was, Jensen?
Why do I get the funny feeling you're not actually going to say one of the standardized southern states? But logically, we're probably going to be going for Carolina.
Yeah, which one?
I'm going to go South Carolina.
Very good. The one that kicks off the Civil War.
I'm good at this.
4 score later, right? It's the one that says, "Nah, we're keeping our land."
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina was the major recalcitrant. The other one was Georgia.
Yeah. If I may, Ahmed, I'm assuming you heard about the white gentleman that was being attacked by a coloured gentleman in the park, called the police to get him away, and when the police turned up, cried because they were arresting the black gentleman. Did you hear about this?
I saw that story.
Okay, good. I just wanted to check with you, just to show you exactly how pussified Whitey has become.
Yeah, well, there are some people that are just insane. That's like the woman who was raped and didn't want her rapist to go to jail because he was an immigrant in Sweden.
Yes.
Okay,
wow.
That's a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that just shows you what's going on.
Yeah.
So people forget that blacks in this country fought for independence.
Yes.
Not all the white people fought for independence. Not all the black people were even allowed to fight for independence or otherwise. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question, Jensen.
Go then.
Right. One of the policies of the British when they were fighting the Civil War was to emancipate any of the slaves that joined their ranks against against the colonials. Correct?
Yeah.
How successful was it?
Well, let's see who won. Okay, let's breaking
No,
it right down to its most basic term. Who won? That's how successful it wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, it weren't bad. And in all fairness, we done it because it meant we had to send over less regulars to deal with stuff. That's why we farmed it off. Yeah, not exactly the greatest, most successful thing. Though I would point out, based on, as we was talking about the American Civil War, you forgot to mention how many colored people joined the South fighting against the North
well,
by choice.
because it didn't happen. Okay, in the numbers that
Excuse
people
me.
talk about,
All
it
right.
didn't
Okay.
happen in the numbers that people talk about. Okay, okay. First of all,
Mhm.
could it have happened? Let's start with it. Let's start with this. Could it have happened? Right? Can
Yeah.
you see a scenario, right, where the slaves join the Southern ranks in regiments to fight for the Southern cause?
I would
Okay.
be rather surprised. That's why when I heard about that, it definitely gave me pause.
Okay. The answer to that is yes. That could have happened. All right.
Hmm.
With one huge caveat
Which is,
that the whole South's fight was about slavery. When you
Mhm.
boiled the rest of it away, the whole South fight, the reason they were breaking away or attempting to break away was so that they could continue to be slave states. And
Huh?
one of the well, I think it was the vice president actually of the Confederacy stated that if we sit up there and create black regiments and they fight, okay, our whole view on slavery is wrong. Ding
Yeah.
ding 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 ding. Okay, so you had to understand that. Okay,
Yeah.
their view of the black person or the quote unquote Negro at the time
Hmm.
was that they were sub I don't want to say subhuman, but they were not as worthy of independence as white people were.
Yeah.
That they were inherently all right. That there was something inherently wrong with them. All right, that kept them at a lower status. Okay, that was their view of many of the slaveholders.
Hmm.
Okay, especially the the really core Confederacy. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you got to expect the person to sit up there and be just like you, and we can't have that. Why? Because
No.
they're not just like you. Why not? Well, because they're black.
Yeah.
Just like with the Native Americans. The problem with the Native Americans had is when you interbred, right? You couldn't tell the difference of what the children were anymore. The
Yeah.
descendants from even the second generation descendants of Native Americans and white people were essentially white. You couldn't tell that they had any quote unquote Native American blood in them
Hmm.
because a lot of those racial characteristics tended to be recessive. All right.
Yeah.
So that isn't true when you see at the time, and I'm not trying to insult anybody here or anything. I'm just going to use the term because it fits, right? A mulatto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a white person with a black person. Generally, the child of a white person or black person has very distinctive characteristics of a black person.
Yeah.
Okay. But only to a point, because 2 generations after that, can you tell the difference? Talcum X?
It's true, actually. This is the thing, the whole genetic thing, it's just so up in the air. At the end of the day, you can breed out or breed in pretty much whatever you like, given long enough time.
Right. Okay. If you take a look at an African, someone
Yeah.
from the continent of Africa, right?
Yeah.
And you look at a quote unquote African American,
Hmm.
you can tell the difference.
Oh, yeah. Plus, of course, the Africans love African.
Albino mosquito. And one shotgun blast later, we end the Kurt Cobain saga. Anyway. But when you put out a story like this, you hate the country. Why are you here? Mr. D. Watkins, why are you here? You're a racist, Mr. Watkins.
Yes.
You're a racist. You did this story, you're a racist. Why did you do the story? Because you think that Americans shouldn't be Americans. That there's nothing, there's something problem that when the founding of the country. Okay, well, slavery was founded in the country. Okay. We fought a civil war and ended slavery. We used, and we did it, believe it or not, through the system. This is the thing that most people can understand. It was a violent ending. Granted.
Mm-hmm.
It took a civil war to do it.
Yeah.
But it got done, and it got done within the system. And this is the problem that I have with the Southerners who come back and say, well, the Civil War was justified, from that standpoint. It was justified because, the fight for freedom and so forth, right? Ignoring the whole slavery issue. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My arguments with Dodge on this are very, very well known. No, that is not the system. You don't just get to walk out. There's a system. You got voted in as a state. Not with the idea that as a state you could leave whenever you want.
Yeah.
And it irritates me when people go, well, no, there's a lot of people who thought that, if they would never have voted for they'd have never voted for the Constitution if they realized that. They had no choice to vote for the Constitution. The reason they voted for the Constitution is there wasn't anything better.
Yep.
The first government of the United States was placed under the Articles of Confederation, and it failed because the Articles of Confederation failed. Now, why did the Articles of Confederation fail? Because states had too much individual power.
Yep.
They had to accept sovereignty of a federal government in order for them to continue the nation.
Just want to point out, and look how well that's gone. I mean, I'm not trying to actually dab on your country here, but your states have literally given up all of their freedoms to the federal government or at least some of them have. And
Well,
that's
there is too much federal power. I'm not going to deny that. But
Mhm.
guess what? There's a system to fix that. Will it be
True.
violent?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yes.
There is a system, and it's going to take violence to implement it, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And it's going to happen. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I know people don't want to hear this, but it's going to happen because of people like Watkins here. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're guaranteeing it's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Because the commies and the people who are truly enamored with federal power, all right, for people that they have no business to sit up there and be bothering, all right, is too much of a drug for them.
Yeah.
And they're not going to release that power. They're not going to sit up there and give up that power freely. They want that kind of federal power, and they want it not just for themselves, but also for every other state. They want to put it under their thumb. And it's going to cause a civil war again. And I suspect it's going to be over this auspices of trans rights. I really do. The trans rights thing is not going to go away. This argument
Oh
is
no.
not going to go away. You got to understand
Agreed.
that. The leftists can't sit up there and let it go away. But these people are free to do what they want and spit at the country because of the freedoms of other people, and they don't realize the cost.
Yeah.
And they don't realize the horror it entails, and it's going to be horrible. Because, like it or not, there's another world war coming. And there's going to be a lot of people dying.
Yeah.
And it's going to be kicked off by these people.
Yeah. It's become a self-perpetuating thing, let's be honest.
Meanwhile, we have this going on. Military suicides rose first quarter of 2023 compared to the same time last year. Pentagon report says up 25%. Suicides in active duty military increased for the first time in 3 months of the first 3 months of 2023 compared to the same time last year, according to the newly released Pentagon report. The Defense Suicide Prevention Office revealed in its quarterly report that the overall number of active duty suicides, 94 from January through March, is up 25% compared to the number of troops, 75, who took their own lives in the first 3 months of 2022. Every death by suicide is a tragedy, according to the report. Data includes all known or suspected suicides, both confirmed and pending as of March 31st. The Army had the greatest increase of suicides, with from 37 to 49. The Marine Corps increased 8 from 8 to 14. The Air Force had one additional suicide, all right, compared to 2022, and no change for the Navy or Space Force. Okay, let's talk about this for a moment. Okay.
Mhm.
First of all, they said it's up 25%.
Yeah.
Really? 25%? I think it's up higher than that. Because they're looking at total number of suicides.
Yeah.
They're not doing it compared to numbers of personnel. And we don't have as many troops in uniform today as we had last year.
Yep.
For a variety of reasons, not the least of which is you can't recruit people.
Yeah.
Why can't you recruit people? Because they're too busy freaking bad mouthing the country, running around crying about global warming. Oh, we're polluting the planet. Everything under the sun. People like Mr.
Yep.
Watkins have done their job of spitting on the country. So nobody wants to defend it now. It's not considered an honorable choice by too many of these fools. I was going to use another word. Maybe I'll get to be a racist Hulk after Nuke drops. Matt Barkley, you have some odd goals in life.
No, he's watched TV. He's seen the documentaries about the Hulk. He knows it's real.
All right, I think people got to understand a few things. And there's something I wanted to talk to Jensen about the Declaration of Independence and so forth, right? Because part of the Declaration of Independence, as the build up and all that, of course, is the main thing that people remember more than anything else is one of the greatest tales of the time, right? Of course, was the Boston Tea Party, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What caused the Boston Tea
Okay, go on. What?
Okay, it wasn't the levy on taxes. Believe it or
That's
not.
what I thought it was going to be. But so.
Okay.
Go on.
It was. See, I'm saying that, but it's not, and that's somewhat not accurate, but it is. Okay. The problem that you had in the colonies, and I've discussed this before, was there was no cash.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you levied a tax, okay, it wasn't that people didn't want to pay it, it was that there's no money to pay it with.
Yep.
Period. There's no sovereign. All right. Now, were the super rich? Did they have sovereigns? Yes, but the average person did not have shillings in their pockets. There was no hard currency available. So you put a levy, a tax on something that's ubiquitous. It sounds like a good idea because, well, it's just a small little tax. Everybody does it, so it's a great revenue generation for us, right? Sounds good, except for the fact nobody could pay it, and it wasn't because they wouldn't have paid it. It's because they literally do not have cash because everything is being done in the colonies from barter, and this is what the problem was. And you in England, you knew it, and you didn't freaking care.
Yeah.
You did
Unfortunately, that
nothing
is
to
very true.
fix that. Did you?
I have said before that whole thing with the New World and the Old World was a complete shit show from the beginning. All it would have taken was a little bit of intelligence and none of this problem would have actually occurred. But did we have it? Did we heck?
Well,
We had a king that was
only
an idiot.
solution was going to create a different set of problems.
Yeah.
Mr. Barkley, today would be the Boston Estrogen Party. He should have worn the finish.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not. But in order to fix the problem, right, what did you need to do? All right, what would it have taken? There's only one fix. There's only one legitimate fix, and that
Go on.
is you had to sit up there and create a mint in the colonies.
Yes.
Okay. How are you going to do that? Okay. You're going to let the colonists print their own freaking acceptable gold and silver and so forth?
This is
You
fair.
had to create a mint in the colonies to do this.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And how is it possible for the crown that far away? People don't understand. Okay, because we don't live in this world and we haven't lived in this world. none of us alive today have lived in this world where it took weeks at the
Hmm.
fastest, right? It took months at the best of speed, all right, to sail. It took at least 2 months to sail to Britain and back again. Okay,
That's assuming they even made it, because after all, ships did get lost. It did happen.
it did happen. It happened. It didn't happen as much as people say, but it happened enough. Does that make sense?
Exactly. Oh yeah, and the thing is, all it had to be is that one wrong time. I mean, let's just make the pretense that England goes, you know what, you're right. Let's send over some of our people for the mint to America. They become citizens. They set up a mint. Everything's great. Your country loves it. Our country loves it. The boat sails off and sinks. And suddenly, yeah, we're basically back in the same situation we are now.
Yeah, that's why I was saying. In order to do that, the colonists would have to. It couldn't have been something that was managed by the crown or by Parliament.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
it had to be managed by the colonists. Okay, this becomes a problem, right?
Yeah.
When travel takes that long.
Yeah.
Because internally, could they have done it? The answer to that is yes. People don't realize this. The colonists
Hmm.
could easily have set up their own mint, right, and started printing their own capital, right? I shouldn't say easily. It could have been done. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you had trade and you had the ability to get currency from the Spanish.
Hmm.
Now it would have changed. See, and this becomes a problem because now where's foreign policy being dictated from? Spain was a constant foe of Britain at this time,
Oh yes.
but Spain was not a constant foe of the colonies. It was a friend of the colonies. Okay, you got
Until
to
that whole
understand that.
Texas issue, until that whole Texas and Mexico issue kicked in. But you're right.
But that had nothing to do with Spain,
No, true, true.
right? But it comes down to current. Like I said, it comes down to currency. Okay, the trading internally, all right, between the the, the Spanish, all right, would have changed that dynamic.
Yeah.
Would have changed that dynamic greatly. But it
Yeah.
had to have been done, and it would have had to have been done at least 50 years prior to the start of the Revolutionary War. So it had to have been done back in the 1720s and 1730s. That kind of mentality had to be in mind already, okay,
Yeah.
to prevent what was going to happen. Okay, so this is why we end up you end up with the Tea Party. This is why the colonists were upset with the Tea Party. All right, and it
Hmm.
also is due to the fact that okay, you want to set it up so that we have to pay this tax, fine. But what's even worse is it's not like we didn't have the ability, the physical ability, right,
Hmm.
to bypass the East India Trading Company.
Yeah.
That was the biggest problem. Okay, so smuggling, because of how the colonies were being treated, smuggling was the number one business for the American colonists.
Oh yeah.
All right, because you guys didn't want us trading, right, in a fair relationship.
That's better. Yeah. We wanted you to trade, but you wanted you to trade with us and us alone.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point. Who's closer
Hmm.
to us? Literally, most of the states that you're talking about
Hmm.
is it easier to drive to sail to Britain or to I don't know the Caribbean?
Which I should point out was technically owned by the British. So you kind of,
Really?
you know,
None of those Spanish colonies on the southern and South America were.
yeah, you specifically picked the Caribbean. We were in charge of most of that. Yes, there were a whole f ton of areas with the Spanish. I completely agree.
And there
It
was
was
also areas of Martinique and Guadeloupe, which were for French.
Yep. And
So
Haiti.
you
Don't
guys
forget
were
that.
not you may have thought it was your lake, but there was a lot of interlopers in your lake.
No, that is true. In all fairness, we should. This is going to sound so bad. We should have crushed the interlopers, and I mean absolutely crushed them. Then we could have actually
But you had a
taken
problem.
over.
Oh,
Yes.
there's no way you could have taken them.
Too
There's no
far
freaking
away
way
is
you could have taken
half the problem.
them. Hmm?
Weirdly, no, I'm actually going to disagree with you by actually showing you a bit more respect. We could have taken over by actually handing it up, basically doing the crushing, and then handing the rulership over to you guys. And right, we've dealt with it. You keep it clean.
No, that wasn't going to work either.
Why
I'll
not?
tell you why. The
Go
problem
on.
was the problem was religion. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you've now had centuries. Okay, of Spanish domination of these areas with
Yeah.
Catholicism. Okay, and let's be perfectly blunt. At the time frames that you're talking about, right, the tolerance of Catholicism was really, really low,
Oh yeah.
right? Mainly because of, to be honest, the biggest problem was because people viewed it as a threat to the crown, right?
Yeah.
The royals had the problem. Really, people didn't. The
Oh
royals
yeah.
did. Okay. Now, if you had done that, we would have ended up where you tried to turn it over to us. The only way we could have done that is if we boosted up our military, and you weren't going to allow that either because we'd have to be an independent military force.
Which is why I said we hand it over to you and give you the full rights and privileges thereof.
Well, yeah, but if you do that, we become even more independent with a military force behind it. How long is that? How is Britain going to handle that at the time?
And we're back to how things could go horribly wrong. I agree. In all honesty, there is no perfect way for it to work. It's as
No.
simple
Like I
as
said,
that.
in order for the solution, any of the solutions that would have worked, right, had to have been done, all right, decades prior to the start of the revolution. It had to be done decades prior, so that the build
Oh
up
yeah.
of these social dynamics, all right, are mitigated early on. Otherwise you can't do it. All right, let's start doing some news. I've done enough stuff here. After the Wagner mutiny, Russia's military is now fighting with war bloggers because they won't celebrate its few wins the way they want. Russia claims a small battlefield victories have drawn criticisms from military bloggers. The mill bloggers won't celebrate with Moscow, causing the defense ministry to clash with the writers. A U.S. think tank wrote that the conflict may indicate a lack of success to report to Putin. Still grappling with the fallout of the paramilitary Wagner Group's armed rebellion, Russia's defense ministry is looking to celebrate its few battlefield victories in the Ukraine. Oh, they've had a few? I thought that they were just being defeated left and right, according to the media, right? But apparently not, right? But it's run into a problem and is now clashing with a community of military bloggers, influential voices in discussions of the war. Ukrainian forces have made small territorial gains during their month-long counteroffensive in the eastern and southern regions, though they have met considerable resistance by Russian troops dug in along defensive lines. The Russian Defense Ministry claims in a series of statements on the Telegram over the weekend that one particular incident, its military successfully prevented a group of Ukrainian soldiers from attempting to land boats near the Anatolovsky Bridge, which is located over the Dnieper River in the Kherson region. Military bloggers or mill bloggers have disputed some of the defense ministry claims, according to a Sunday assessment by the Institute of Study of War, a Washington-based think tank. The military bloggers said Ukrainian forces had managed to establish positions and that the fighting was ongoing. Okay. Now, for those who don't understand this, you have to seize both ends of a bridge. Then you have to hold it. Okay?
Yeah.
And the guys on the distant end of the bridge, they can't, they have nowhere to go. Dang, if things go bad. Okay? Making bridges like this, or crossings like this, is extraordinarily dangerous to the troops that are actually doing it because you have no way back. Okay?
Yeah.
So what the Ukrainians, and before we go too far into this, the Ukrainians were celebrating this major victory, and this is a major victory. They were. If you take a look at the media reports last week, they were all talking about these had this great success. And I read the reports, okay, that
Hmm.
they were talking about, and I was like, this is not a success. This is going to get crushed because they didn't use the troops they needed to. Okay, they went in.
Yeah.
They had about 100 troops to try and establish a bridgehead. All right, and they didn't push in the tens of thousands that you needed to do. All
Yeah.
right, because you got to immediately expand that bridgehead.
Yeah.
You seize the river first, sure, that's done, but then you got to let the tanks roll. Right,
Yep.
you've got to get across there. You've got to start moving. You've got to push. Right, because otherwise, what will happen is that small group of people, if you just let them sit there, just get wiped out eventually.
Yep.
And nobody wants to be on a bridge getting shot at. Nobody. And 100 people is not enough to secure that bridge. Not with modern weaponry. Not with the modern distance of weaponry today. And at any point in time, one side can take that bridge down. This is something else that people
Yep.
have to remember. Okay, it's not like the Russians don't have the air power to take down this bridge
Yeah.
if they wanted to. Okay.
Plus, of course, whatever, also including whatever the Russians call their version of the Royal Engineers. I mean, I think they probably know how to make things go boom if they really want to put some effort in. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of the people that knew what they were doing are dead.
Mhm.
I hate to say this, but it's true. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
Russian soldiers that were the professional soldiers have now left the mortal coil. Okay,
True.
because they were willing to stand, they were willing to fight, and those are the ones that got wasted. Okay,
Yep.
Russia really this shows you some of the problems that the Russians have. Okay, Russia is not. When we talk about a professional military force, when you talk about a professional military of the British or a professional military of the United States,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying we're braver, right, or stronger, right. Training, no, has there's a purpose behind training, and it shows. Okay, and the trained soldiers of the Russians were used in the offense and then left in place to try and prevent the disaster that's followed with the counteroffensives as things turned around.
Yeah.
Okay. And part of this, when they talk about the Wagner group, okay, this is not there's something people have to understand about that. When they talk about the Wagner group, how's it going, Terry Marie? Um, you're not talking about an insignificant number of people. When we talk about mercenaries, you and I, when we say the word mercenary, how many troops are you thinking about?
Depends on the given situation. That's the thing. I mean, you can
But
have
generally, if you talk
Merc.
about I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't know.
I want to say Mercs. You could literally have as like a group of 5 people, or it could go up into the like 10, 20,000 if you've got the supplies. It really does depend on said situation and said control the person has.
Right.
That's the problem with Mercs.
That's an analytical thing. But when the general person hears something about mercenaries, right, they're thinking 50 to 100 people, right?
Hmm.
When you
Yep.
when you and why? Once again, media.
Yep.
Once again, you're talking about how people in Hollywood are portrayed these mercenary groups in these various different, action movies or even other types of movies. Dog Day Afternoon, for example, or not Dog Day Afternoon. What is that? Christopher Walken's movie. What's the name of that stupid movie?
Lost on me. Sorry, mate.
I'm trying to remember. I can picture. There's several scenes in the movie. I can't think of it, but the idea is a few hundred people at most, right? Or like you said, five, or just a core, like a dozen or two, right?
Yeah.
That they would become a mercenary type of group. But the Wagner Group, okay, just in Russia, okay, just in the groups that's stationed currently in the Ukraine and Russia area, was over 25,000.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, they have other areas. People don't understand this, but Wagner has other areas outside of the continent of Europe. Specifically, there's a high number of them in Africa right now, in various areas. Okay,
Yeah.
I would say that the total number of Wagner troops is over 50,000. Could be close to 100,000. That's a
That is literally
huge
an
number.
personal army. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. That is a professional army, and they are military. They are a military force, and they were being used as Russia's extension military, that they could go into these areas, and it wasn't considered Russia invading these areas, like, because they were technically not Russian. They were a mercenary group, right?
Yeah.
But that's now the problem with that kind of a thinking for the Russians from that perspective has now come to the fore. And
By the
so,
way, Nomad, before you carry on, Lou Ferrigno, you might want to give him a wrench because he seems to be the only grey one, only grey at this moment. Okay.
hello, Lou, welcome. You now are wrenchified.
Only Shirati doesn't deserve a wrench.
I'll never give a wrench to Shirati.
Good. Apart from that, what would a woman know about a wrench anyway? Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Well,
Damn.
first of all, you said woman, and you were already wrong.
It's true, a Borg, yeah.
Yes, cyborg. You don't have a woman there. You got a cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not that isn't the issue there. But yeah, no, but the Wagner Group was not an insignificant force, right? And they were basically had created channels within the Russian government for supplies, right? That were dedicated strictly to them.
Yeah.
And in this latest thing, one of the things that people had only now just started reporting was that how was Wagner able to attempt a coup? And they did. Let's be honest. Let's be perfectly frank. The guy, Prigniov, all right, he attempted a coup. I'm not butchering his name, and I know I am, but I'm sorry because I cannot pronounce it even if I could do it correctly. Right? He did attempt a coup.
Okay.
What he was expecting, however, was that he was going to get support from two places. One, the general Russian populace, which didn't happen. Okay, and he was also expecting support from like the Belarusians who were going to join his effort and actually supply other weapons, and finally he expected the Russian military, especially the air power corps, right, to a significant portion of it to join him. That didn't happen. Okay, So it all fell apart. And
Best
now
laid
this
plans of
guy
mice
ran
and men.
to Belarus. What?
Best laid plans of mice and men.
But the Russians have had, all right, the Ukrainians have started this big counteroffensive. And one of the things that I saw in the report was is they were supposedly during this whole counteroffensive thing, one
Hmm?
of the defense ministers or the defense minister of the Ukraine stated that they hadn't even the counteroffensive is just building now, right? That we haven't even sent in the reserves yet. We've got a huge reserve that we haven't used yet because we're probing to use this, and we plan to use this as the breakout, right? The reserves and the breakout, right?
Mhm.
Well, okay, but you're not making progress then,
No.
okay? And this is the problem that the Ukrainians have is they just don't have the force. Now, I've talked about some other things about the Russians in the past, and here is one example. Russian investigative reporter Elena Milishina, Milishina, I'm not trying to butcher your name, savagely
No.
beaten in Chechnya, rights groups say. Okay. An award winning Russian investigative journalist is in a hospital after being badly beaten by armed assailants during a trip to Chechnya, the Memorial Human Rights Group said on Tuesday. Elena Milishina's fingers had been broken and she is sometimes losing consciousness. She has bruises all over her body. The incident happened early Tuesday as Milishina and Alexander Nemov, a lawyer, were traveling from the airport. They were savagely kicked, including in the face, received death threats, and were threatened with a gun to the head. Their equipment was taken and smashed. The Committee Against Torture, a human rights group, published photos of her in the hospital with her head shaved and covered in green dye used on cuts and her hands bandaged. The media rights group Reporters Without Borders said it was horrified by the savage attack. All right. Miscelllaneous paper Novaya Gazeta, right, Russia's top independent publication, confirmed the incident. It said that she and Nemov were currently in the hospital in the Chechen capital of Grozny. Okay, so it doesn't say anything else about her. Was she pro-Russian or pro-Russian Ukrainian or anti-Ukrainian? I know nothing about this person. What do you know about her?
Absolutely bugger all. To me, it sounds like. Oh, sorry. Let me word it this way. They are making it sound like that she was anti-government and that the pro-Russian Chechens kicked the cack out of her and her lad. But we don't know. We have, like you said, no information to make any real judgment.
Well, the question I have about this, because I'm not you know, a quote unquote expert, but I will say this: I do know something about Chechnya,
Hmm.
some things, right? Because I pay
Yeah.
attention to things,
Yeah.
all right. And a lot of the Wagner group, right, were Chechens.
No, I'm shocked.
Just putting it out there. Um, and the Chechens, you got to remember, the Chechens did attempt to break away, and they were brutally repressed.
Oh, yes.
Okay, they were brutally repressed. They were brutally put down. Their attempted independence movement got crushed. Okay, and and believe it or not, they fought like hell. The
Oh, yeah.
Chechen males fought like hell, and then the Russians went Russian all over their ass. Okay, what do I mean
Hmm.
by that? I mean, okay, we're having problems in this area. Wipe out the village. And after we wipe out
Who
enough
does that
villages,
remind
the
me of?
problem will be done. That's
Who
what they
does
did.
this remind me of, Nomad? I just can't think of anyone that might put forth that suggestion. Can you?
I'm just putting it out there what they did to them. Okay.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just pointing out. I'm sure I've heard this before.
They went in when and they used, and people don't understand this. The Russians, when they decided to get serious, came in full bore.
Yeah.
Okay. They tried to go in with a hands-off approach. When that didn't work, and they were still having problems, and they pacify an area, move on to another area, and then the original area would basically erupt again.
Yeah.
And without any kind of real reporters, there were no Americans there. There were no Europeans going to Chechnya to report on that.
Nope.
Right? The Russians said, "We have had enough of you." And they came in and used every kind of frickin' weapon they could, with the exception of nukes. Okay? They used chemical weapons against the Chechens because they were not trying to worry about battlefield success. They were trying to worry about strategic success. This is where, if you really want to know a use for chemical weapons, it's not on the battlefield. The use of a chemical weapon is when you're taking out support areas.
Yeah.
And it's very effective. When you have a village, okay, that's supporting the rebels, and you hit it with gas, and then you look at the next village that's set up there saying, we're going to support the rebels, they have a tendency of going, I don't have protective masks. We're not dying for you. Okay?
Yeah.
It works. I'm not saying that, I'm not talking about the horror of it, right? And it's horrible, but it works.
Yeah.
It's effective. You can ask the Syrians. You can ask the Iraqis, both of whom have also deployed chemical weapons in that frame. Not against the troops, but against areas that they're trying to pacify, just specific targeted areas, and then they turn around and go, who else wants one? And for some reason, people don't raise their hand saying, I'll take one of those. So, unfortunately, everyone is dying, right? There's a lot of death, a lot of destruction. The people who come out of that war in the Ukraine, the people that came out of that war in Chechnya, they are hard-bitten, hard-charging people, which is why they were perfect for the Wagner group to hire. Okay?
Yep.
And believe it or not, they are not squeamish about going in there and picking up a 3-year-old and bashing his skull in. That's reality.
Yeah.
That sounds horrific, and it is. Okay. But they're not squeamish about doing that. That's who you're dealing with.
Yep.
And believe it or not, that's what the Ukrainians are starting to become. They're becoming just like that.
Yeah.
And before somebody tells me, no, that isn't true, Nomad, you're not. Hey, they were already in the early stages sitting up there poisoning Russian troops.
Yeah.
Giving them poison-laden food and wine. Don't say that they're not going to do this. This is a horrific civil war. I've said this from the very beginning. So what's the answer here? Okay. You want to know the answer for the people?
Go on.
Survive. That's the only thing. Do
Yeah.
what you can to survive. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
This story, I gotta read it. Woman sleeping in her car chased down by man in stolen Lowe's forklift killed in a Home Depot parking lot, police say. A man has been arrested and charged in connection with an incident in which a woman was killed after being hit and run over by a stolen forklift in Waldorf, Maryland Home Depot parking lot on Sunday, according to a release from the Charles County Sheriff's Office. Officers responded to a burglary and theft in progress at a Lowe's Home Depot improvement store at 12:40 a.m. Sunday, July 2nd. What do we know about July 2nd at 12:40 p.m. or a.m. rather?
AM. I don't know what you could be suggesting. It's not
Or-
like anyone got themselves killed, especially not. I believe you said 13-year-old.
Yeah. The in Baltimore, Maryland, and in Baltimore,
Mhm.
Maryland, you were at the same time, about the same time, right?
Yeah.
Is when that all kicked off. According to the sheriff's office, the suspect identified as Bryce Caleb Timothy Brown. Okay, a middle name is one thing, but two middle names, interesting.
Mm.
20 had broken into the Lowe's, stolen a forklift, rammed it through the rear gates. Dude, what were you going for? Okay. Right? The news release alleges that Brown then left Lowe's on the forklift, driving it into the parking lot of a nearby Home Depot where he rammed a vehicle in the parking lot. A woman who was sleeping in the car got out when the forklift struck her car and started to run away. The release said added Brown followed her and struck her with the forklift and ran her over before stealing her car and fleeing the scene.
Wow.
Officers responded to the initial burglary, found Gloristine Pinkley, 73, a 73-year-old woman, dead underneath the forklift in a Home Depot parking lot, according to the sheriff's office. And the suspect and the victim did not know each other. Brown was arrested Sunday evening, and detectives found the victim's car near his house. Brown has been charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, assault, theft, and other related charges. He is being held in the Charles County Detention Center without bond, according to the police. Dude. You ram a woman's car, she gets out, she's running, and you run her down with a forklift.
Yeah. That's damn.
Initially, when I read this, the story headline, right, I was trying to figure out you couldn't outrun a forklift. They don't go that fast. But
No.
You find out when she's 73, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? She's not a spring chicken at that point. She probably had a walker with her. And this guy had to run her over with a forklift? Dude, you couldn't have just like grabbed her and taken the freaking keys and got in the car?
Yeah.
Why would you ram the car with a forklift, doing all that damage to the car that you're trying to steal anyway?
Dumb as all hell. I won't be totally surprised to find he was on, shall we call it, illicit drugs. Cough, cough, crack. Cough, cough, cough.
Frame of mind makes an issue. Frame of mind does, come to mind. On to the next story. From Semaphore News, okay? From Max Tani. I don't know who Max Tani is. Vice bosses got bonuses while staff wait to get paid. Are you going to tell me that your bosses at Vice are acting just like the big CEOs of any other corporation? Come on, Jensen, let's hear it.
What? All I'm going to say is this, okay? What did people expect? I mean, Vice seems to have this strange idea that effectively their bosses are all communists. I don't want to pee on your parade here, but no. They are money-grabbing little darlings, and if they get the opportunity to get money and you don't, well, they could not give a monkey's crap. At least that is how it appears to me. I'm willing to be wrong.
It's not every day you get attacked with a forklift in a dead sleep. It's true. No, you're not wrong. I was waiting for the Claude Rains impression. I'm shocked. Right? The bonuses were part of an annual payout executives at the company received based on performance in the previous year, according to two people with direct knowledge. You're in bankruptcy. I think the performance speaks for itself. What bonuses? But the checks were written as the company was gearing up for potential bankruptcy, which means many rank and file staffers and freelancers weren't paid for work from April and May and were furious to learn about their boss's bonuses. Shocked they are.
Yeah.
The company has continued to cut costs in other areas, including eliminating the messaging app Slack. I didn't know there was a messaging app called Slack, not that I care. On Thursday, an HR rep sent an email to the staff saying that the company will not be able to pay severance this month. I think Vice News, Tim Pool, when Tim Pool left Vice News, okay,
Yeah.
he left at the right time.
He did.
And
I hate to compliment him, but he did.
And he saw the writing on the wall because they were not interested in even his truth. Okay, this is the problem with what went down. These guys, Tim Pool, and this is my problem with Tim Pool. Tim Pool never understood that he wasn't trying to tell the truth. Tim Pool didn't realize that his time at Vice was all about him being an activist. This is why when you talk about the Ferguson thing and where he made his big heyday, that you hear him talk about it all. Talk about it. He made his bones at Vice News with the 1%. What was that? Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street bullshit, right?
Hmm.
And then Ferguson.
Yeah.
But he never wanted to tell the truth about Ferguson. Not the real truth. He wanted to do the slanted truth. He didn't want to sit up there and ask these people that were coming to Ferguson why they were coming to support Michael Brown criminal. Right? A man who assaulted, robbed a store, assaulted people, then assaulted a police officer and died while grabbing for the police officer's gun.
But you don't understand, Nomad. He's Blick. That makes him completely immune to everything, and he's nothing but an angel, and everyone else is in the bad.
It was even worse because they were trying to present as if he had his hands up, don't shoot, and he was shot in the back. None of which was true.
Mm-hmm. Hold it, is that the hands up, don't shoot, dude?
Yep.
Ah.
And so where was Tim Pool in that? Why weren't you telling the story? Why weren't you going, hey, wait a minute here. The police weren't the bad guys in this case. The police officer who they freaking tortured, right, verbally, all right, and basically dragged through the mud. And it turns out the guy was literally defending himself. And that all the evidence points to the fact that what he was saying was not, well, you hear one side of the story and then you hear the other side of the story and the truth is somewhere in the middle. Well, truth wasn't in the middle. The truth was the officer's story.
Yep.
There was no middle here. But Tim didn't tell the people that. Oh, he'll talk about it now. Right? Because he's starting to learn. He's starting to learn that his angst against his angst against the man, that there's a cost for that.
Yeah.
And that when society starts to fall apart, it becomes a dog-eat-dog world, and he has been on the receiving end of that dog-eat-dog crap, and he's now starting to realize, holy shit, there's a problem here. And the thing that gets me is these are the very same people that were lauding this stupid son of a bitch, all right, early on in his career.
Yep.
And he was accepting their plaudits and stood up there going, "These are my people. I'm
Mm-hmm.
one of them. I'm on their side. I believe in their goals." You didn't even know what their fucking goals were, by the way. They didn't even know what their goals were. Because their goals were power uber alles so that they can sit up there and tell other people how to live their lives. And guess what? One of the first things that goes, and this is, people don't understand this, is the media. When the media starts to become part of the political elite, there's a problem. And that's where we're at.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this story. All right, on to the next story. Meet the family of orcas thought to be behind recent encounters and attacks. White Gladys pod. You know, and so they show a picture of, is that Jeff Bezos?
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me Jeff Bezos is funding these sons of bitches?
No, he's their target. The whales are out to get him.
Ah, okay. Right. White Gladys, an orca believed to be behind the recent bone encounters, has a family acting with her. White Gladys is a mother of a group of 6 orcas that are believed to be acting together. Expert thinks that other orcas might be imitating White Gladys's behavior. White Gladys is an orca is believed to have started the trend for a number of boat encounters in and near the Straits of Gibraltar, some of which have damaged and sunk boats. But White Gladys, aka Gladys Blanca, right, is one among many, and she has a group of relatives, including 2 siblings and her 2 calves, that appear to be acting with her. White Gladys is in a group of 5 other orcas and is among the most active in approaching and disabling boats. According to The Guardian, the 5 other killer whales with her are Gladius Clara, Gladius Flares, Gladius Tank, Gladius Delilah, all right, and Gladius Lamare.
Hmm.
All right.
I'm just
they've
seeing more
they've
boat.
named these orcas.
Yeah. Though, in all fairness, the Japanese also named the orcas lunch, breakfast, dinner, tea, snack.
Uh, Other Gladys groups are in the group. There's a Black Gladys, a Gladius Herbali, a Gladius Mateo, a Gladius Estrale, a Gladius Isa. I think the real problem is that the orcas have said, you know what? Those hairless freaking apes, I've had enough. I've had enough of those
Yeah.
hairless apes.
Yeah.
Right? Besides, I ate one. They're tasty.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happened. The orcas have figured it
Yeah.
out. These things are edible. You just
Yeah.
gotta get them off. Just gotta get them off that floating raft, right?
Oh, I've got a good idea. Tip it. Yeah.
Well, first of all, you gotta stop it.
Yeah.
There's a real easy way to stop it. Just rip this freaking pedal thing off.
Mhm.
Right? Then you go after that little propeller thing. That thing hurts, so you gotta be a little careful with
Yeah.
that thing. But if
That's
you
what you
ram
said
it
a young
underneath,
one.
if you ram it underneath, that thing tend to squeal a little bit and stops.
Mhm.
Bend the shaft a little bit, kind of takes care of that. And then it's just a matter of time. Sooner or later, there's going to be a picture, aka of Jaws, where an orca comes up on the boat, opens its mouth, grabs the human, and sucks it back down.
I'm okay with that as a concept. I really am.
And the rest of the people on that boat are screwed because the other orcas are just waiting for their turn.
Yep.
In Jaws, once the shark got the guy, the shark would generally swim away.
Yeah.
Sharks,
It was
once they
only
get
one
fed,
shark.
leave.
Yep.
Orcas, on the
Orcas,
other
well.
hand, don't do that. Okay?
Mhm.
Let's be perfectly frank. People don't know that orcas are bad news. Okay? There's
Yeah.
nothing not on the menu of an orca And even when orcas aren't hungry, they will screw shit up. Okay?
Yeah.
They were shocked when they got films of orcas playing let's fling the seal, where they
Yeah.
were
Seal
literally
tossing.
coming up under a seal, and then with its freaking what do they call that? The fluke, flipping
Yeah.
that thing in the air repeatedly. They're not
Yeah.
trying to eat it. They're playing badminton with it.
Mm.
Okay? These things are dangerous. If they ever develop technology, we've got someone to fight with that isn't human anymore. Okay? And like it or not, they have a much larger area to hide in than we do.
Yep.
If those things ever figure out a way to get on land, we could be in a world of hurt. I'm just putting it out there.
This is fair. I mean, it's not like they're really, really huge fish and could do massive amounts of damage. Oh no, that's right, they could. Damn. But don't worry, we've got our ships. They'll protect us.
Lou Ferrigno, where I live, they reintroduced seals when I was a little kid. Now we have great whites and orcas. You put a food source out there, what a surprise!
Yeah.
The problem with great whites and orcas isn't that they eat seals. It's that you're also on the menu. It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Just put it there. Although great whites have a tendency to are kind of an odd thing because when they do kill humans, they tend to not act like other sharks. Other sharks, like bull sharks especially, right? If a bull shark attacks a human, they're relentless. Okay,
Yeah.
they're going to eat you. Their idea is they're going to take you, munch on you, and when you're totally gone, they'll leave. Okay,
Yeah.
That's a bull shark. That's the vast
Mm-hmm.
majority of, believe it or not, that's the vast majority of shark attacks in the United States are from bull sharks, not from great whites.
Yeah.
When a great white hits a human, generally it's thinking it's a seal, and it grabs a hold of the human, takes a taste of the human, and spits the human
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah.
Because they were expecting nice seal blubber meat, and they got, what the hell was that? Okay?
Yep.
That's what happens. Now, unfortunately for the human, you tend to have been bitten in half already. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, you weren't really the intended meal. Now, while your carcass floats on the water, other fish will come out there and take a bite, right? Because
Yep.
great whites are not the only shark in the ocean, right? Just put it out there. From the Wall Street Journal, migrant workers flee Florida as new immigration law takes effect. Florida agriculture and construction industries say they're experiencing a labor shortage because a new immigration law that took effect on July 1st is leading immigrant or migrant workers to leave the state. The law signed in May by Florida Governor and GOP presidential candidate Ron DeSantis, right, seeks to further criminalize undocumented immigration in the state. It makes it a third-degree felony for unauthorized person to knowingly use a false identification to obtain employment. Businesses that knowingly employ unauthorized workers could have their licenses suspended, and those with 25 or more employees that repeatedly fail to use the E-Verify system to check their immigration status can face daily fines. Business owners and workers alike say the ranks of laborers in Florida may have grown noticeably thinner. Okay. An employee who wants to work on the farm is now not available anymore, said Hitesh Kocha, an owner of a produce packaging facility in South Florida who leases land to farmers. How are we going to run the farms? You ain't. In Miami's booming construction market, all right, developers, construction companies, and construction workers say the change happened as soon as DeSantis signed the legislation this spring in May. All right, workers at several construction sites in South Florida say a quarter to half of their teams are gone, exacerbating an already challenging labor shortage across the industry. Hey, you know what? This sounds like a summer jobs program opportunity, doesn't it, Jensen?
Oh yeah, I was waiting for that
Right?
bit.
All right. I mean, this sounds like it. This sounds like a hell of a job opportunity. I suggest you call up Chicago, where the mayor of Chicago has said we have all these jobs for Chicago for the Chicago youth to stop the rioting going on down there. And it is rioting. Let's call it team takeovers. You want to stop the team takeovers? Got a solution. Got a job
Yep.
opportunity right there in Florida for you. They just need jobs, right? That's all they need. That's all you're doing told, right? Am I missing something, Jetson?
No, I think you pretty much covered that one. I mean, let's be honest, okay? At one point, that was kind of a major thing with America, the, air quote, the pickers. You would have entire families going around doing that. Now it's just taken over by the migrants doing it, or at least it was.
Well, back in the
Time to
70s,
go back to the
there
old
was
ways.
back in the 1970s, there was a man, right, a huge leftist, okay, activist organizer named Hugo Chavez, or
Hmm.
that's Hugo, excuse me, Cesar Chavez. Right?
Okay.
And Cesar Chavez was trying to unionize the migrant workers, all right, and get higher pay toward the what they call the lettuce pickers.
Yeah.
50 BMGs are darn good riot suppressors.
It's true.
No, it's not. It'll suppress the riot, granted, but the damage it will do after it suppresses the rioting and carries on through the next rioter and then into the car and then into the building behind the car is a bit significant.
How about we mount the Avenger autocannon from A10s on top of vehicles? That'll stop riots. Ooh,
That's
suddenly.
a 30 caliber round, which is even larger by 2
Good.
degrees.
Good in it. Again, it will stop the riot because there won't be anything left apart from twitching meat on the floor.
You are just planning to use this as an opportunity to create an Ed 209. I know what you're doing, Jensen. You want one of
I
these
have
walking
no
down
idea.
the street.
Oh, I do, but to be honest, I'd actually have mine as a tripod, not as bipod. I don't like the two-leg idea. Not that I've planned any of this, honestly.
Not that I planned any of this. I want a tripod vehicle rather than a bipod. Actually, if you're gonna go with that, you might as well go with the quad. You might as well go with the quadruped. Yeah. There's a lot of advantages to it.
It's true.
So, but anyway, but you want the M209 just to stand there. There are advantages to 2 legs versus 4. Okay, there's a reason why cockroaches are so fast. Actually, is when cockroaches run, they actually lift up and only run on 2 legs.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, but people don't anyway. But putting Ed 209s in front of buildings, it could happen, but you have 10 seconds to comply. It's also something that could happen. You now have 5
what
seconds to comply.
Oh dear, how sad. Problem over.
Which, to be honest, the look. You're going to have to figure out a better way of. So you're just wasting rounds after the first 10.
That's true, unfortunately.
If you didn't hit it in the first 10, you're not going to hit it. Number one, and if you didn't, and if you did hit it within the first 10, it's dead. What do you continue to fire for? Unless you have another target.
This is fair, yeah.
If I was going to have a criticism of the Ed 209 program as a whole, that would have been one of them.
Yeah.
Waste of money, waste of ammunition.
Yeah.
Jensen, how about the next story here? What do you think of Madonna in the
Is
news?
she
You
dead?
ready for Madonna news? No.
Is she dead? What a loss. Oh, darn. In all fairness, I don't know that she could die with the amount of plastic she's got. I mean, she'd just, I don't know. Dude, have you seen
Okay, I think we
what
said
she
whatever we
looks
need to do
like?
about this story.
I'm sorry, but have you seen a picture of what she looks like now? She at least looked halfway decent back in the day. Nowadays,
You mean
she
like
looks
this?
like she's gone. She looks like she's gone through 15 levels of radiation and won somehow.
Is this an old picture of her?
Yeah, well, that's what she didn't.
Or a
She
doctored
looks a
picture
lot.
of her?
I think it's doctored. She looks a lot worse than that. Her lips are about 3 times as big. Oh, it's just
I'll be honest with you.
wrong.
I've never been a Madonna fan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue about her talent, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a. I've never been a real fan of Madonna's.
Mm-hmm.
She, as a songwriter, I think that she was probably a very talented songwriter, right?
Yeah.
Singing voice, couldn't care less, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but I couldn't care less about her singing voice. There are other people's voices that I appreciated more, right?
Yep.
So that part of it, her dancing and choreography. Once again, there may be talent there, but it's not my thing.
Yep. That's fair.
So it is what it is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to belittle it, but I don't care. I
Yeah.
simply don't care enough to worry about it.
So basically, you agree with my first question: is she dead?
I think it's a bit
I
harsh.
agree, Matt. I agree, Matt. Cyndi Lauper much better, and she had red hair.
Better singer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about a better songwriter. And I never did get past the checkerboard shaved head. Okay. Just putting it out there. That smacks of hippiness and free love bullshit. Go to the birds. Okay, Jetson, I will return in just a moment. I've got to step away for just a second. If you don't mind, why don't you give the folks your opinion about
Mm-hmm.
the recent sub disaster? Just
Oh,
out of curiosity.
oh, yeah. You know what? She's right.
Oops, I
I'm
think I
willing to
screwed up
admit
and
when I'm
Meathead
wrong.
just had dead air. Sorry about
All right.
that. Go on. Anyway,
You
what
missed.
you were saying.
Yep. As I say, she said that they wouldn't do that. I said yes, they would. Looks like she was right. Maybe people aren't that bad. I'm impressed. Okay, because I really did expect people to claim it as it affects black women far more than it does anyone else because insert reason.
The
Maybe I've just got
disaster
no
affects
faith.
black women more than the
Anyone else. That's what I was waiting for. Yes, because you do know that apparently, and you probably know about this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The whole war in Ukraine between the Russians and Ukrainians, notoriously not black, affects black women more than it does anyone else. Yes,
no.
I'm not
And
actually
how does
joking.
the war of the Ukraine Material Girl was 95% processing? Anyway,
Yes,
so
wow.
what how is the war in the Ukraine affecting 90% of the black women?
Oh, that's easy. Stop asking questions, you racist.
Ah, okay.
No, that is the
Um,
answer, by the way.
here's my question for you: if the war in the
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine is affecting black women,
Yeah.
right?
Why aren't they out there
Regardless
fighting?
of whose side you're on, if it's affecting you
Yep.
in a negative manner, why aren't you going there
Yep.
to put a stop to it, or why aren't you going there joining the side and picking up arms?
Patriarchy. I can just throw random words in at this point. It's actually really quite
You
good.
can form
And the
your own
best
little
bit is
mercenary group. The Russians will hire you for sure, and I'm sure that the Ukrainians will as well. Form your own little Amazon battalion and head on down there.
they are
Show us
not going to
what
be
for.
working. Do you really think they're going to want to work for that white patriarchal person? You can again, whichever side you want on this one. No, they're not going to do it. They want to have Wakanda and create it in Russia because you'll probably find there's some genius out there that actually thinks that Russia was invaded by the Africans and somehow were pushed back by Whitey. Good God, can you
I'm on the
imagine them
side that
actually pulling
stops
that
sending money
bullshit?
to the Ukraine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that we need to stop sending money. We also need to stop sending troops, or no, not troops,
Yeah.
but well, troops too, but we shouldn't be
Ammo and
sending
armor.
arms
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Um, let I'll be honest with you, and I've said this many times. You want if Russia sees NATO as a threat, okay,
Hmm.
and at this point in time it does, correct?
Oh yes.
Would Russia see NATO as a threat if the United States left NATO?
Hmm.
Would it?
Oh, I know of. They should. I'm just saying they should. But I think
Really?
we've both made it clear our exact thoughts on NATO. Come on.
Well, yeah, but that's my point. I mean, if the United States left, the United States decided it didn't want to be a part of NATO.
Yep.
Russia wouldn't have any reason to fear
Nope.
the grand coalition of the Germans and the French. I don't think Russia's going to be intimidated, right?
What are you trying to suggest that the Germans and the French couldn't band together, form a working army, and hold off the Red Menace? Good God, they only need to send 2 women over there. That would sort out the whole problem.
The Russians, or first of all, the French right now are in a quote unquote war with
With
immigrants in
France.
their country from Algeria,
Yep.
and they don't seem to be winning. Just put it out there.
I don't disagree with you, sir.
Now, the migrants are going to have a problem because something is going to happen to them that most people will never believe would happen because it's a matter of time,
Mm-hmm.
and that is we can stop the riots. Why are you going to stop
Mm-hmm.
that? No matter how would you stop that? It's real simple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let them riot, cordon off the areas, right? And I mean, with your things, surround their area so they can't get away, and don't send in food.
I thought you were going to suggest my Ed 209 idea. Again, it would stop the riots.
See, Jensen has now moved from the stable platform sitting outside defending things to things walking through unoffensive operations. It only took, what, 30 seconds?
Well, look, you knew it was going to have to happen. I know it's going to have to happen. It's how it's going to be. So we might as well send him in to clean up, basically take down anything that's still moving. Then we can send in people to clean up the mess, take the bodies, spin the protein and starch, and we've got food for everyone else as well. See,
We're
we're
back
all
to
in
the
a
Soylent
win-win.
Green version of Jensen.
It works.
It didn't work. Did you not watch the Soylent Green movie?
Yes. But what you didn't see is part 2, where the riot was utterly destroyed and it all went back to the same anyway.
Well, that's...
By the way, the trick is, you see, if you've done it for long enough, then the people are actually so weak because all they've been eating is the Soylent Green that any attempt to rebel against your well-fed troops collapses completely, and at that point you've got a underclass, and I'll just call it that.
Well, first of all, if you get to a point where you're dealing with a society like what happens in Soylent Green, okay, what you would have is a slow deterioration of the number of human beings on the planet.
Yes.
Right? This would leave what? This would leave a vacuum. What does nature abhor? A vacuum. It's going to fill it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So the next thing that will happen is you'll have another resurgence of animals.
Yes.
And human beings would have gotten too used to eating their own, right? That there would be a group of humans that would be like Morlocks. This is why H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells was a far more
prophetic.
I don't want to say prophetic, but he was far more forward thinking than people understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the problem with the way that the book was is that the Eloys versus the Morlocks, there has to be significantly more Eloys than Morlocks.
Yes.
Right, in order for that kind of a system to work. And human beings we're not passive creatures.
No.
A human person could be passive, but human beings generally aren't. Right? So the society wouldn't develop that way. What you'd have is two societies that would be at war with one another, like you had cannibals in the South Pacific. Right?
Well, the major problem is the amount of time it actually takes a human to actually become fully grown. It becomes an inefficient feeding process. So my whole spawn protein idea will only work for a little while. But then again, I will remind you, I'm still working on the idea of all humanity need to be wiped out anyway. So it's just a stepping stone on my plan.
All of this conversation brought to you by Madonna. Anyway, on to the next story. Professor who made students remove shirts created a hostile environment, investigation finds.
Especially since it was an all-girls school.
A Maryland professor who instructed female students to remove their shirts during class created a hostile environment and violated Title IX, according to an investigation by the U.S. Department of Education. And the U.S. Department of Education should not be involved in any kind of investigation. Just putting it out there. Investigators say that the instructor at the Tacoma Silver Springs campus of Montgomery College, which is just down the street from Baltimore, by the way, all right, in Maryland, required female students to remove their shirts and wear only their sports bras to demonstrate a medical assessment. Some students put on lab coats for modesty, and the professor instructed the students to remove them. He then commented on the students' breasts, according to a letter from the Office of Civil Rights to the college. Now, Okay, I'm going to continue this.
Yeah, good luck.
Following the complaints of students in the class, the college placed the professor on paid administrative leave. What do you mean, paid administrative leave? And alerted students of a formal investigation into the allegations of sexual harassment. The Title IX coordinator at the college conducted interviews with the students from the professor's class, students from another section of the class taught by the professor, the department chair, and other student witnesses. The investigation confirmed that the professor's conduct created a hostile environment on the basis of sex. The professor was terminated, and the student who initially filed the complaint was notified. The college provided
Mm.
counseling, academic assistance, and tuition reimbursement for several of the students in the class. One student failed the class due to the harassment, and this college paid for her to re enroll. Okay, now, this this is a professor. The professor is a degenerate. The former professor.
Yes.
Because he was terminated.
Yes.
Right? Which they fired. Good. Kudos to school.
Mm-hmm.
This is well within the firing offense category.
No, this is taking out the back and beating Cackless with pickaxe handles. This is what you do in this situation.
I have to say this though, I'm kind of impressed that he thought he could get away with it.
Yeah. The question is how many other teachers out there are doing this. That's the thing to think about.
Okay, now first of all, they said that he tried to say this as a medical assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they have to be medically assessed?
He was checking for sizes.
What are you trying to teach here?
I know.
All right. I just can't believe. First of all, I can't believe that supposedly adult women saw this requirement and then go no. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, as soon as he put this out as a requirement, they should have just walked out the door and said, went right into the dean's office and said, not no, but hell no, and what the hell kind of a professor is that? Okay?
Yeah.
It's scary that not only, like I said, the guy had some chutzpah to think he could pull it off, but what's worse is, in a way, he succeeded because they did it.
Yeah. Horrific, isn't it?
Yeah. Goes
Lou
back to
says
the
it has
comment
to
that
be
you
an
were making
Indian
earlier
professor.
about humanity.
Mm-hmm. You see why I have no faith in humanity now. It makes sense. Is it wrong?
Well,
Possibly.
well, there's this aspect of it too that feeds into it. California
Mm-hmm.
Reparations Task Force calls for ban. Remember, this is the Reparations Task Force. We're going to give you reparations for slavery and being black. Calls for a ban. Calls to ban police from enforcing public urination laws.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get your reparations for peeing on the sidewalk. See, being allowed to pee on the sidewalk is equivalent
It's
to
cultural.
40 acres and a mule.
Mm-hmm.
California's Reparations Task Force wants state lawmakers to ban the arrest and prosecution of people who violate laws against public urination and other public disorder offenses. The task force said in its final report released last week. The call to end police enforcement laws including those that prohibit public urination, is among the official policy recommendations listed in the final report, which contained 40 chapters and runs well over 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
A significant proportion of law enforcement contact with the public relates to low-level nonviolent offenses. Thus, for example, law enforcement is frequently tasked to enforcing public disorder offenses such as illegal camping, public intoxication, or public disorderly conduct, minor trespass, and public urination. We used to have no spitting laws in this country. Okay? In fact, there's some states and some cities that still have ordinance against public spitting.
Can I bring up my 209 concept again? Just say.
You must pick up that spittle. You had 10 seconds to just.
Yep.
I'm just putting it out there. Okay? You're not giving anybody reparations by saying, go ahead and pee on the sidewalk. Pee in the public. Whip it out in public and let it go. I don't think that's going to help the racial equality issue in the country. I don't think that the black Americans are clamoring so that they can pee in public. Okay? I don't think there's a huge outcry for this.
Yeah.
I
don't even know what to say to this. I really don't. It's just. Oh dear, oh dear. How? I mean, all jokes aside now, how much more can they actually take the piss out? Yeah. Yep.
Now, what were you asking?
How much more? How much more can they actually insult the black people in America before even they turn around and go, "Hold the f up"?
Well,
we are not like.
Okay, that's a good question, and the answer is this: one of the problems that Black Americans have, and all Americans have, to be honest, is especially leftists. Right? You got to understand something about leftism, because leftism means that your identity is more important than your principles.
Yeah.
If you are a leftist, okay, if you're even a moderate, what it indicates to me is that your principles are shit, number one, and that there are no principles. You don't have any principles because it's subject to your identity, how you feel about your identity. Okay? Whether that identity be race-based or gender-based, okay, that is what you're using as a defining characteristic for yourself. All right? And it is that identity that suffers when your principles, all right, run afoul. And if you want an example of it, all you have to do is take a look at the recent discussion, okay, brought on by Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith just recently commented on what happened in Baltimore. Okay. Where he points out, constantly comes back and says, all right, these bad things in race and everything happen. He goes, but what does that have to do with how we are acting? And he's right. However, just a few months ago, okay, when it came to a principled stand where a black college athlete claimed during a volleyball match that somebody used the dreaded N-word, called her an N-word. And when all the video and all the audio came out, nary an N-word could be heard. or found or even discovered anywhere.
Don't you understand? Listen and believe, dude. Come on, listen and believe.
All right. And yet, when all this evidence came out, did Stephen A. Smith look at this woman and sit up there and say, hey, no, you got to sit up there and apologize because you falsely accused, you were wrong, and you falsely accused this university? Did he say that? No. He said, I'll be damned if I'm going to sit up there and condemn this young woman. Why? Because your racial identity was more important than your principles.
Yep.
And that's the problem with people like Stephen A. Smith.
Yep.
Because when you're a leftist, principles don't matter. Your identity does. Whatever identity group you're identifying with is what really matters. Now, in the case that we're talking about in Baltimore, well, he's saying the right thing about Baltimore. Yeah, because it's tied directly to what he perceives is a threat to the black community. Blacks killing each other is a threat to the black community, and it's out of control in his mind. And he stated as such. And he's not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so his core principle, his skin color, is still intact.
Yeah.
That's the problem. When your principles come from your identity only,
Mm-hmm.
then you have a problem. Now, I realize that we live in a real world, right? And that people who have principles and hold to those principles regardless of all things, all right, there's very few of those people, and as human beings it's very hard to strictly hold to those. Okay? You wouldn't have adultery happening if people could hold to the principles of morality, their own principles of morality. Adultery just wouldn't happen. Not like it has, especially nowadays, right? Where it's far more prevalent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hell, it's lauded. I mean, literally,
Well, that's a problem.
Lauded.
It's lauded. That is a problem. That is one of the issues. Okay.
Mm.
But it's not that I don't recognize this, right? That people fail to live up to their principles. Okay. It's hard to always maintain a constant belief in your principles, especially when it affects you negatively, and when it happens, well, quite frankly, you're just plain tired. Okay, sloth is a problem. It's one of my biggest problems.
Yeah.
Okay, on a personal level,
Yeah.
I recognize this, but most people don't even recognize what I mean by sloth. Sloth isn't just eating and getting fat. That is just an outer aspect, right, that indicates sloth. Sloth is I just don't care to do something, all right, even though I should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's what sloth is. When you know that you should do something but you don't. Doesn't matter what it's in. Okay, you're being slothful at that point. If you know you got to clean up your room and you don't clean up your room, you're being lazy. You're being slothful, and it does become habit forming, unfortunately. Right? That's the reality. The creature's a habit. Right? Once you get into a routine, right, people will maintain that routine. This is one of the reasons why the Army has standards. When it creates things, it creates a standard and says everybody has to meet the standard because it reinforces then, all right, a routine that happens that's positive.
Yeah.
Routines, not all routines are positive, but the routines can be positive or negative. So you try and reinforce the ones that are positive. But this is, like I said, going back to how you're looking at this. The principles, like I said, you if your identity guides your principles, you're already wrong. Your principles need to guide your identity where you need to be. if somebody says you're a truthful man, that can apply to anyone, right? Or a truthful person, I should say. That could
Hmm.
apply to anyone, okay? Whether you're green, black, purple, whether you're a heterosexual or homosexual or anything, right? If you're
Yep.
truthful, if you stick to the principle of truthfulness, right, and you become somebody who is acknowledged as constantly a truthful person, you won't have a problem. But when you're somebody like Stephen A. Smith, are you really going to sit up there and if it comes to truth or identity politics or identity to your racial politics, right? Which one dominates? If the truth comes in as second best, how are you going to move forward?
Hmm.
You see, if you want people to put aside race and truly want a colorblind society in the sense of they don't allow a person's color to be judged as X, Y, or Z. Okay. Now, first of all, that's going to be impossible. But even if you want to move toward that kind of society, what you have to do then is you have to sit up there and give susurrancy to the principles,
Yeah.
and you have to hold to those.
Oh yeah.
But see, when you're a leftist, you can't because the identity is too important. So you can't sit up there and say, "Well, we got to have individual accountability. What are we going to hold people individually accountable?" Well, you didn't, and you made a point of saying you didn't because she's black, Stephen A.
Hmm.
You didn't hold this black woman accountable for a small, and it's a small thing, right? She made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't, and I will be one of the people who say it's very possible, all right, that it wasn't that she didn't mean to make that mistake, right? She may have thought she did hear it,
Yeah.
but if I give her the benefit of the doubt, all right, that's me giving her the benefit of the doubt. But if I give her the benefit of the doubt and she realizes at that point, then okay, you gave her the benefit of the doubt, you still need to sit up there and point out to her that she was wrong and let her apologize for the mistake she made. Because people make mistakes
Yeah.
and you got to give them room to apologize. But when you come back and go, oh, no, 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 there's no condemnation here because of skin color,
Mm.
how are you, how, why then would you're bitching about why aren't we holding, our own selves accountable? You're not. You were one of the people
Right.
doing it over the smallest of things. You couldn't do it in a small area. How the hell are they going to expect you to do it in a larger area? It's the same thing. If you can't trust a person not to rob $10, how then can you sit there and say, "Well, yeah, but I can trust him with 10,000"? He surely
Very
wouldn't
true.
steal 10,000. This is what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Accepting multiculturalism and homosexuality is the right's weakness. All right. First of all, accepting homosexuality. What does that mean in your mind,
Good
gentlemen? What
question.
does that mean?
Good question. Because basically everyone accepts it exists, and that is technically accepting. Do they support it? Some do, some don't. You know, it's each individual to themselves. It's when they start supporting it above and beyond other things that it becomes a problem, and that's what's happening nowadays.
See, to me, acceptance of homosexuality is saying that there's a sin out there, okay?
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
saying that it's not a sin. No, it's a sin.
Oh yeah.
Carrying on extra weight like I got right now, right?
Mm.
Getting fat. That's a sin, okay? It's not good for myself. It's not good for my soul, and it's not good for society in general to have a bunch of fat people, okay?
It's true.
right? So, when you talk about acceptance, what are you talking about? An acknowledgement that it exists? Fine. Fat people exist. We see that. Does that mean that we shouldn't say things to them? No. You should say things to fat people. Hey, I'm a fat person. You should say things to me. Hey, you're fat.
Mhm.
Until I lose weight, until I sit up there and get off my ass and start really buckling down and lose this excess pounds that I got on me, right? You should sit up there and there should be people willing to sit up there and call me out for what I am. A slob, a flat slob, if you want to look at it from that standpoint. Okay. It's not the only definition of who I am, but it is a definition. It's a physical manifestation of who I am. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that somebody should be willing to come or should be arrested or shouldn't have the right to come back and tell me, hey, look, fatty, you shouldn't be doing this? No, I don't believe anybody should have that right. I believe in the principle of freedom of speech. And if they make me feel bad because I'm carrying too much weight and they're going to point this out to me, so be it. They have that
Yeah.
right. That's a right. They should be able to do that. Does that mean that's the correct thing to do in polite society? Maybe, maybe not. Right? But the person has the right to do it. And I look at homosexuality in the same manner. Okay. What I had where I've gotten in trouble with people and where people sit up there and can't wrap their heads around it is there's a difference between that attitude and saying we need to promote alternative lifestyles. And that's what homosexual marriage is.
Yeah.
Okay? Is this difficult to do? Is there a defining characteristics there? Okay? Is that difficult to understand?
No.
It
No.
shouldn't be. It should be very, very straightforward.
Yeah.
And I've had this argument with CSG, who wants to promote the quote unquote alternative lifestyle. Well, I don't see anything wrong with promoting it. I do, because it helps destroy society. Sooner or later,
Um,
you're going to find out that I was right. Why? Because society right now is being destroyed. Where do you think that's coming from?
well, it's not just that. Okay, let's go. Oh boy, are we going to get in trouble with YouTube for this? But at the end of the day, all right, a man and a woman creates children. A man or a woman do not. Their
Right.
species will die out, and there is nothing that can be done about it.
They're not a
They do
species.
not self-replicate. But the point is they've chosen to make themselves a species. They are self-destructive. They will die out. They cannot reproduce.
That's true.
We just have to stop that ideology being pushed on other people. The fact that these people want to be homosexual, etc., yada yada yada, that's up to them. I personally couldn't give a monkey's. It's the fact that they're trying to push that lifestyle on other people that I consider wrong.
Well, I agree. I agree. The thing is there's a lack of understanding of the necessity of marriage and what marriage actually was. Okay, and
Yeah.
this is why I've had this argument so many times, right? Because
Oh,
people
I
draw
agree with
false
your point about
equivalency,
marriage.
right?
I
They don't.
agree with your point about marriage, by the way, just so we're clear.
Yeah, no, no, I know you do, right? Because
Okay.
it's logical. I'm not taking any
Yeah.
kind of thing with it. All right, it's actually applying realistic logic. Okay,
Yeah.
and you'll notice nobody has a comeback from that. When you
No, no.
point out it's a social, it's not a freaking individual contract between two people, and you show them what it actually is, they have no comeback with it. They keep trying to
No.
argue a false equivalency when they know it's a false equivalency, and it's this demonstrably a false
Yep.
equivalency, right? That's where the problem with all this is. Okay, and you point this out, you start pointing these things out to people, and they go and they just don't like it. Now you end up with the other group, the group like what's his name, Styx Hexenator. right? Who sits up there and goes,
Mm-hmm.
well, then if you're going to apply that logic, there should be no marriages everywhere. Okay? Wrong. Right? That's another problem. That's law of the jungle problem. See,
Yeah.
you don't want society to do this, or you do want society to do this. Now you can sit up there and say, I don't want certain groups as a part of this, and that's another problem that I do have. Right? I don't think marriage is something that should be federally recognized necessarily, or
Yeah.
federally mandated. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
It could have been left at a lower organization. It should have been left there in a society, right? The federal government had no freaking role in this. All right, that's how I feel about it. The federal government had no role in this.
Yeah.
It's the other aspects of it that got put into place, because once the federal government has a role, if you think the federal government has a role, then in that aspect of it, the federal government has grown too large for its own good. That's just the way it is.
You do realize how much you sound like a libertarian with a lot of your ideas. You do know that, right?
I'm a conservative, not a libertarian.
I know. I didn't actually accuse you of being a libertarian. I said you sound very similar to the libertarian ideal.
Well, the libertarian ideal, all right, is based on individualism.
Yes.
Okay, but it's individualism uber alles,
Hmm?
right? That's not humanity,
No.
all right? I recognize the need for individualism, all right?
Hmm.
But I also recognize the need for societal governance as well, because we as human beings need to exist with both.
Which is why you're a conservative, not a libertarian. I
Correct.
understand completely.
And you want to play for Ed 209, by the way. Here's one.
Mm-hmm.
Car ramming shakes Tel Aviv as Israeli raid on Jenin enters its second day. A Palestinian man rammed a car into a crowd of people at a bus stop in northern Tel Aviv on Tuesday, injuring 6 as Israel's largest military operation in the West Bank in 2 decades has entered its second day. The Palestinian man, believed to have been acting alone, hit a passerby with his car before exiting and stabbing 2 people, according to a statement by Israeli police. He was then shot dead by an armed civilian in the area. Really? An armed civilian, huh? Weren't the
I
police right there? Okay, the assailant,
can see where
Hussein
this is going to go.
Halalia, all right, from a village near Hebron in the southwest West Bank, entered Israel on a medical permit because he was terminally ill, according to the Israeli media. But we don't have to worry about the ambulances being used as bombing suppliers. Okay? The attack coincided with an ongoing operation in Jenin that has left 10 Palestinians dead and some 100 more injured, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, and forced thousands to flee their homes. The operation in Tel Aviv is the first response to the resistance to what is happening in Jenin, said Khalid al-Bashta, an official with the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a militant group found in Gaza and the West Bank. Etan Dagnot, a former... Go ahead.
I was just saying hello to Shirati.
Oh. Etnan...
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy Traitors Day.
Yes, I know you're on stream. I just was in it. I just wasn't saying a damn thing.
No problem. Oh,
There.
glad to see you,
Is
hon.
that better for you?
Yeah. Carry on, mate.
All right. Etan Dagot. Dango? I don't know how to say it. Right? I'm not
Probably
trying to butcher your name. All right.
Yeah.
All right. A former Israeli military coordinator for the Palestinian Civilian Affairs in the Gaza Strip in the West Bank said the military operation began Monday, aimed at to encircle Jenin refugee camp as the capital of terrorism, and was only a partial solution to that would not sufficiently deter future attacks. You want to defer future attacks?
Kill them
Surround
all.
Jenin, which they said that they've done, and march out every freaking swinging person
Mm-hmm.
through the gates and right into freaking a camp with tents, right? Bedouin style.
Mm-hmm.
Level every freaking building in the quote unquote refugee camp and go, look, here's a shovel. You guys got a job to do. You got jobs for each and every one of these people to rebuild all their houses. Ask the Germans. It works really well.
It did though, didn't it?
Right? When they're too busy trying to build themselves a home, they're not worried about running around going,
Mm-hmm.
or hey, Hitler!
Yep.
When you're worried about digging out of that rubble that used to be your home, you don't really care if have the time to sit up there and be running around, all right, with nefarious bullshit. And that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be brutal. Don't care about being brutal. All right? Not trying to be. Right? But that's what it would take. You would have to go in there and literally house to house, moving people and putting them into a camp that you totally control and say, this is how you're going to live. This is where you're going to sleep. This is where you're going to eat. This is what you're going to eat. This is where you're going to drink. This is what you're going to drink until we say otherwise. And if somebody goes, what do you mean treating people like that? These people plant bombs onto children to blow up other children because attacking the guy with a rifle is just too hard. Just like Mr. Asshole here, who, well, I have nothing left to lose. I'm going to ram civilians in a civilian area, start whipping out a knife, all right, until I was put down. You noticed how he didn't run to Jenin and go Allah Akbar and charge the Israeli Defense Force.
No.
Notice that? Notice how their suicide bombers are not running into a military base and blowing themselves up?
Nope.
They always go for the soft targets, the civilian targets. Why is that?
Because it's easier, and you know it.
It is easier. And a higher
Come on.
likelihood of actually being successful in your actions.
You're standing there on guard at your base. You see this truck coming belting towards you. Your entire reaction is stand, aim, shoot. And you worry about technicalities later.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, I was defending my base, sir. Oh, okay then. And that's pretty much how it goes.
Used to be acceptable. Well, it used to be acceptable until people started crying about it. They shot up a bunch of civilians. Really? Did they sit up in a speed through a checkpoint that they were supposedly not supposed to go through? Well, they just made a mistake. Yeah, that mistake cost them their lives. Tell everybody about it. Tell everybody that this person made a mistake and it cost them their lives, and not to do the same thing. Because this will happen. People will stop making that mistake. I guarantee you. People will stop making that mistake.
Again, going back to my Ed 209 thing. So what you're saying is he made a mistake, so now it's time to erase that mistake. just saying. Oh, Carl, you know I had to do that line. Come on.
That mistake was erased with a friggin' plasma grenade. It still didn't erase the mistake. Anyway, it's too bad we don't have plasma grenades. That would be quite useful. Just put it out there. We kind of do, but
the word you're looking for is yet.
Well,
okay.
People complain because We had something that was very similar to a plasma grenade,
Mm-hmm.
but they screamed that it was a crime against humanity to use it. Right? It's called white phosphorus.
Yeah.
it's it's very effective. It works
Oh,
just like the
Willy
plasma
Pete's are
grenade.
awesome. They are, though, aren't they? Come on, Willy Pete's work really well.
It does. Their big bitch was is that medical personnel trying to treat the wounds would sometimes come across unburned phosphorus and they were in danger.
Thus is war, mate. Thus is war.
Can we have the same vigilance at the southern border? I don't think we need Edit 209 at the port. Well, then again, I was
I'm
wondering too if
sorry.
there.
Yeah, that would deal with a whole lot of the problem.
My call for the solution at the border is to use the U.S. military in its proper role. All right, and tell Mexico that until they put a stop to their incursion, we are going to take the first mile, all right, declare it, all right, a no man's zone that we control, okay, and that they get the other mile. A mile
Yep.
outside of that, a mile outside of that is for them to patrol, and anything that we catch within our demilitarized zone, all right, we prosecute,
Mm-hmm.
and then you seed that area from one end to the other with minefields and say, here are your entry and exit points. If you walk through the minefield, you take your own
Yeah.
risks. Okay? Just
Yeah.
put it out there. Just put it out there. Declare this area off limits saying, we are planting mines here. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Problem solved.
I'm okay with this. I really am.
Just- and I would have the military in that mile zone, right, doing patrols back and forth. And if the Mexicans don't like it, tough shit. And that's what I would tell them.
Yep.
Tough shit. You don't like
Yeah.
it, too fucking bad. And I'm totally serious about this. I would tell the Mexicans, and if you want to get all puffed out and you want to sit up there and send the quote unquote Mexican military after us, fine, we'll take care of you guys. So you can't do that anymore. And I
Oh
would tell the
no, the
cartels, don't
Mexicans are
support the
after us.
military. Huh?
How will I cope? The Mexican army is going to attack. Notice the fear and terror in my voice.
Well, it's the same thing as the cartels is. You have the same policy. You're not coming through here any more than the Mexican army is because you're all the same thing anyway.
My God, I actually
Put it
think
out
the
there.
French have got a better army than the Mexicans. That says a lot.
The problem with the French isn't their army. The problem with the French is their leadership. Let's be perfectly frank.
Oh, yes.
French troops are not bad. French leadership is friggin' horrific. Okay?
You know what the French army needs? British leadership. Then we'll be fine.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm just pointing it out. All right, the penultimate story now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to it. Whoops. I just screwed up. I have to bring it back now. Come back here. There's another group that had to learn, just like the Germans. If you have another job,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do the wrong things here. Over to Japan. Japan discharge of Fukushima radioactive water into the Pacific gets the green light. The UN nuclear body, the IAEA, says plan is safe and similar to tritium discharges by other nations. The International Nuclear Safety Authority, all right, Tuesday gave Japan the green light to release slightly radioactive wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea, saying that the science didn't justify concerns raised by nations around the Pacific. The International Atomic Energy Agency, a UN body, said Japan's plan was safe and in line with similar discharges carried out by other nations around the world that operate nuclear power plants. The government of China and South Korean fishery groups are among those protesting the plan, which Japan said it wants to carry out this summer. A Chinese foreign ministry spokesman, Wang Wenbin, all right, said the ocean is humanity's common good, not Japan's private sewer. On Tuesday, the IAEA chief Rafael Grossi, all right, personally delivered a final report favoring the plan to the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Tokyo. An earthquake and tsunami knocked out power to the Fukushima Daiichi plant on March 11, 2011, causing meltdowns at 3 reactors. No, that did not cause the meltdown. Okay? Since power was restored a few days later, Japan has been pumping in water to cool the reactor cores. The water, is, as well as some groundwater at the site, has been contaminated with radiation. Okay. First of all, the story starts with gets the green light. Just pointing it out that you remember those dials on alarm clocks about 40 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they glow green?
Yeah.
Why did they glow green, Jensen?
But would that be something to do with a radioactive isotope, maybe?
Tritium? Yeah.
The thing is, okay, people are not thinking this through. The fact that they're pumping the radioactive water out is only one of the problems. The other problem is it's going to piss off Godzilla. He can turn up and screw up Tokyo again. Are they not thinking about this?
I don't think it's going to piss off Godzilla. It may make him hungry. That's a different issue. Same result, but all right. You
More
don't breathe
radiation
radioactive
versus
fire unless you get radioactive stuff in you, right?
Sure.
Okay. So if Godzilla's going to run around with a radioactive, breath blast, he has to be getting the freaking radioactivity from somewhere.
Yeah, this is fair.
Hey, Ronan, welcome. But okay, first of all, the amount of tritium being released is insignificant. Okay,
Yes.
and this goes uh, to explain people to what happens. Okay, tritium is created in the nuclear pile, right? Because the water is being bombarded with neutrons. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and so once neutron absorption takes place, water goes from just regular water to deuterium, and then from deuterium to tritium.
Okay.
Okay. The difference between deuterium and tritium is the addition of a neutron. Right. A normal water molecule has one proton, one neutron, and an electron.
Mm-hmm.
Deuterium has one proton, two neutrons, and an electron. And tritium has, you guessed it, 3. Okay?
Okay.
These are the smallest units. Okay? Deuterium is relatively stable. Technically, it is radioactive, but it's such a long cycle of degeneration that it's virtually stable. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So deuterium is considered a stable isotope, whereas
Yeah.
tritium is not stable. It's going to release, okay, and it's going to destabilize one of the neutrons. All right, destabilizes. Okay, then that's what happens. Right, that's why you end up with tritium. Tritium, if I'm not mistaken, is a beta emitter mainly. Okay, and what does it turn into? if I'm not mistaken, it turns into helium. You end up with an
Oh,
ionized helium molecule out of it
okay.
because you end up with 2 neutrons, okay, and 2 protons, which is a helium molecule.
Okay.
Okay, but it's without the electrons, so it's an ionized helium molecule. Okay, and actually, the ionized helium molecule is more dangerous
Oh,
because it
okay.
really wants an electron. Okay, and it's really going to
Yeah.
go find that electron somewhere close. Okay,
Ah.
so
Would
it's
I be
going to,
right in suggesting that could be bad?
yeah, it's going to steal an electron from another substance, whatever substance it encounters. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the way it works. Okay, now tritium, like I said, while it's a beta, if I'm not mistaken, it's a beta emitter. While it is radioactive, is not overly radioactive. Okay, so the fears that they're talking about, okay, of radioactive waste from tritium is negligible. Okay, it's overblown. People, if they focus strictly on the tritium, the problem is that you're pumping this water through those cores, all right, those damaged reactor cores, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you trust that the release is only going to be the tritium that's produced, okay, and not some of the other stuff that's floating around?
What are you worried about? What's it gonna do? Nothing. That's what I think.
Yeah, cesium has a tendency of not doing just nothing. Okay, just putting it out there. One of the detectable things that they're all worried about is the release of cesium, the cesium isotopes. Okay,
Okay.
which cesium, first of all, as a molecule, is highly radioactive, regardless of the isotope.
Okay.
Right, and then if you add on the isotope aspect of it, it becomes quite dangerous. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
one of the problems in the Bikini Islands, right, when we remember the Bikini Atoll that we did all the nuclear testing on, is
Yep.
there was an excess formation of cesium as a result, a cesium isotope. That's when they moved all the people out of there and said you couldn't live here anymore, blah, 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 right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they've gone back, a few years later, a few years to go back a few decades later, and they found that there's no cesium, right? They couldn't
Okay.
find it in the ground. They're like, wow, the cesium's gone. What happened? They were
Mm.
like, well, maybe we can move these people back until somebody checked the coconuts,
Ah.
which now had concentrated levels of this stuff.
Okay. I can't see that going badly.
So the areas are still off limits because the coconuts themselves, especially the coconut milk, are just
We should
radioactive
send the
hotspots.
migrants there. No, we should send the migrants there. That'll deal with the problem.
No, that's not the solution, Jensen.
It is.
It is not. It is not a good. Let me rephrase that. It's not a good solution. Let's put it that way. I don't think something is declaring the Bikini Atoll and saying, "Here, go ahead and go fishing and going back in here is a good idea."
No. Don't be silly.
The
What you
tree
do is you
bathing.
tell them
Yes,
if you want
yes,
something
yes.
to drink, make use of the coconuts. It'll be really good because it will A, get rid of the coconuts, and B, get rid of the migrants. We're in a win-win situation here.
You just want human experimentation to be allowed again. That's all part of this.
You think it stopped? Fascinating.
I said allowed. I didn't say it stopped.
That's fair.
It's not quite xylene, the official chemical name, but it's close. Cocaine lethality is a ghost of a drug. Never approved or tasted on people, by the way.
Again, we're going back to our migrant ideas. We can test it on them.
If you want to talk about self-testing, you got Hunter Biden.
No. He'll be immune. He's got enough shit going through his system. I don't think it's going to kill him. Let's be fair.
Oh. You're not helping matters, Denson. You really aren't helping matters. All right. I think we've gone on the stream long enough. We can final story of the day. You ready?
Oh, yes.
Hippo crushes buck that stuck in the mud after wild dogs chased it. A bush buck is stuck between a rock and a hard place. No, it's not a hard place. It's a hungry hippo. As wild dogs surrounded it and it chose to jump into a mud wallow with a hippo to try to evade the dog's snapping jaws, the hippo unleashes its anger on the buck and crushes it. No, he ate it. Let's be honest. The hippo said, okay, look, a food source has hopped into my little water hole. The dingoes snap back and go, damn, that one got away.
No, you got that
wrong.
Look
at the dingoes. There. The dingoes are like, damn.
No, you got it wrong. The dingoes are working with the hippo. They're actually coming together as planned now. This is what people aren't actually understanding. Animals are planning nowadays.
Yeah.
First the bucks, then the people.
One hippo, 2 wild dogs, and 2 bushbacks.
That's just the beginning.
The territorial bull hippo is startled by the commotion, fled only to realize what was transpiring, so it made a hasty retreat back to the safety of the wallow. The wild dogs then surrounded the wallow and yet again tried to subdue the bushbuck. The hippo clearly was not in the mood and chased the wild dogs off. Right? What transpired next was a bizarre event. Munching on the bushback. And the dingo going, damn. I mean,
we could attack the hippo. Well, I'm sure that won't do anything at all. Literally.
I feel sorry.
I mean, come on.
Buck, but that's nature, folks.
Oh no! All right, okay. Let's pretend that the dogs could actually get to the hippo. They bite it repeatedly. The hippo falls on one of them. The dog's dead. There are now half that many dogs left. Said surviving dog realizes his situation and bugs out.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest.
The difference is the hippo. All right. First of all, the dogs will nip at a hippo and then run like hell. Right. Let's be honest. That's the dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Bite. Oh, this isn't working. Bugger. Mm-hmm.
And at which point, the hippo has been antagonized. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
An antagonized hippo is a danger to everything, except maybe a full-grown elephant. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's only maybe. If the elephant gets in the water, it could be in for a bad day.
Yeah.
But the hippo's smart enough to go, okay, I'll let that one go. Okay? Just put it out there. Now, elephants have always amazed me as interesting creatures to begin with, right? Because they're very smart, but at the same time, and they can reason. They just don't have, and they have a mean streak. Some elephants have a mean streak. They just don't have a mean streak in the right way. Okay?
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? I can hear people going, what the hell is Nomad trying to imply here? Look, elephants come upon a deep barrier.
Yeah.
Right? Now they can see the bottom, but it's a little too far down that their trunks won't reach. As a result, they will not go into there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where a mean-streaked one would go, if it was a proper mean streak, would look at the one next to it and go,
Push.
Hey, Charlie! Exactly. Let's see what's down there. Oh, shit. Oh, it's not too bad. Okay, we'll head on down.
Yep.
They're smart enough to figure that falls hurt. Okay? The elephants have figured out if you fall off a cliff, life sucks. Okay? They're not stupid. Okay?
No, hold up. You say life sucks. No. You want to know who life sucks for? Life sucks for the guy that was standing down down at the bottom of the mountain, having a cigarette, and suddenly an elephant falls on him and explodes. That's the guy who says life sucks.
Matt Barkley, Crack Hippo versus Meth Elephant, a sci-fi original.
Should I point out they actually created the crack raccoon, the cocaine raccoon film specifically for things like this.
The meth
That
squirrel.
could be. Don't
The
do
meth
it. That will
attack
be
squirrel.
part 2.
I'll be honest with you. I think the meth elephant is a bit too much. A crack addicted elephant is one thing. A meth elephant. Look, a meth elephant isn't a danger to the crack hippo. It's a danger to everything.
Including itself. Let's be honest.
The crack hippo, right, it just doesn't care, right? But the meth hippo, on the other hand, and a crack elephant, there you go. I think I just switched those two up. Just pointing it out there. Meth in nature. Nature's wild.
Release your inner beast.
You throw the meth hippo, the meth bear, and the meth elephant all in a room. See what happens. Now I know what's going to happen to the bear. The bear's going to lose. But...
Yeah. Funny enough, the creature you want to throw in there is a meth squirrel because that will win. Do you know how I know? Because the others will die before they even catch it.
Eventually, it's being running around. Its heart rate's going to kill it.
That's the downside.
All right, I'm just putting it out there. But you know what a meth bear actually is? Right.
Go on.
An oversized Wolverine. Okay, that's really what
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
It's a 500-pound Wolverine. That's what a meth
And
bear
that
is.
Is actually quite terrifying.
Okay.
Wow. I can't see that going badly.
Yeah, it's interesting, but nature abhors a vacuum. In this case, the bush buck, right? The small little deer, right? The African deer. The African deer was food. Okay,
Yes.
Understand it. It was food. The moment it got surrounded by the dingoes, it was food. It had a choice. Am I going to be food of the dingo or food for the freaking hippo? Those were his choices.
Yeah.
Okay? And for some reason, it decided to be, I might as well go for the hippo. Thinking, well, maybe the hippo won't be in a bad mood.
That and the fact that at least the hippo will kill me quickly. The dogs,
that's true.
Not so much.
That's true. The dogs will nip and you could still be alive while it starts to eat you. Whereas the hippo's just like, okay, you're done.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel sorry for the deer, but you were food, dude. You were food.
What can I say? Bammy didn't make it. Is what it is.
They're called ground bears for a reason. A Wolverine, a 400-pound Wolverine, right? It's horrific. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
Because Wolverines already have an attitude.
Yeah. 4 hours killing, 4 hours sleeping. 4 hours killing, 4 hours sleeping. Yeah, pretty much covers it.
Anyway, that's all the stories I have for the day. Hope that you all guys enjoyed it. I'll let you all go now. I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.